All right, let's talk buyer agency and what that means. Um, Prior to submitting an offer, and after we've decided that we're going to work together, you want to work with Team Mangos. What we do is we're obligated to present this first page to you, which is called Working with a Realtor. And what this does is it just describes different ways in which we realtors can help those of you that are not realtors. There's it's all defined here. You're gonna have to give it a quick read just to make sure you understand it. But essentially, it's defining the differences between what a client is and what a customer is. A client is somebody who we are an agent of, so we are under obligation to work in the best interests of. And a customer is somebody who is just asking us to fill out some orders for them, help them with a form, that kind of thing. So in both cases, we're obligated to be honest and disclose what we know, et cetera, et cetera. There's just different levels of service that we are obligated to provide, given what choice you've made, um, for buyer representation. So, you know, I'd say what 95% of the time, what we choose to work with is under client representation, and it's just saying, I know that the options that might exist here, and I'm choosing to work with Donnie and have him as an agent. I will be his client, and you're going to be documenting that relationship in a subsequent document. So this is just a disclosure statement that we're obligated to present prior to talking about the next things. So that leads me into the next page, which is going to talk about buyer representation. That's here. So it ultimately comes from, it's between my brokerage and you, not you and I directly. So anybody in my office can come in and help out as well if we need them to. And ultimately, we trade under the owner of the company. So for a period of time, and usually I'm a 3-month term kind of guy. That's what I'll put on here. I'll help you out for 3 months. This is just documenting the promises we're making to each other, and I'm going to help you try and find a residence in Toronto. Okay. Normally, what sticks out here is people want to talk about number 2, commission. Just saying that you understand that we do get paid as a result of doing what we're doing here, helping you find a place, and that for the most part, in Toronto anyway, we end up getting paid from the seller's agent through the seller. So here we go. And we agree that we're going to be getting paid, and 2.5% is a pretty standard rate that we get, that we offer out to cooperating brokerages, so buyer brokerages, as part of this transaction. So the seller and the seller's agent have decided how much they're going to list the place for, and how they're those terms are already discussed. But 2.5% of whatever they're paying is going to go towards us to try and bring in the right buyer for this property. That's just talked about here. Okay. A next section here is saying the holdover period. What this is saying is, during the time that this agreement is in place, so that 3-month period, if we show you a property, during that time, you can't transact, you can't buy that property from the seller or whatever for 90 days beyond the expiration of this agreement. If we didn't show you the property, I guess you're free to do what you need to do. However, if it's a property that we introduced you to and we saw it together, then for 90 days beyond the expiration of this agreement, any negotiation that has to happen on that property has to be worked through us. We want to help you. Okay. Representation. This is just saying that you've seen that written disclosure form, which was the first page we talked about today, and you understand that you've chosen to work with buyer representation. It goes beyond that and talks about multiple representation. And this is a situation where it could be me, it could be someone else in my office, someone at Royal LePage to Equity. How it works is anybody that represents the seller and the buyer at the same time, that's multiple representation. So even though I may not know who the seller is, and even though I may not know who the seller's agent is, if they work for a larger company, still we have to be careful as to how we guard the motivation, the strategy, the information about who our clients are. Like, we just kind of guard that stuff, and we're governed by certain rules, and that's all discussed right here. Okay, and if that happens, if ever we get into a situation where we're talking along these lines, I'll go over this with you just to make sure you understand what it is we're doing from this point forward, because it does change things. In my experience, this rarely occurs, so it's unlikely to matter. Referral of properties. So during our agreement, you're out shopping around, you see a place you're interested in. we're asking that you just say, hey, Donnie, this is what I saw. This is the address. Or this is the MLS number. I was browsing realtor.ca and whatever. Just pass it on to us, and we'll find out what we can for you and contact the seller and try and get you in. Okay. Number 5, indemnification, is saying we're trained in dealing with real estate, in transacting with real estate as well, but we're not experts in determining whether defects, whether they're hidden or unhidden, to the land or improvements, that kind of stuff. So we're doing what we can, but you're indemnifying the brokerage against defects that you would have discovered in construction or whatever along those lines. Number 6 is saying finder's fee. If during the currency of this agreement, I was receiving a fee for somebody for referring you to them, I'd have to let you know about that. And I guess I could, anyways, it's never happened in my experience. No one's ever given me anything to refer. I just refer based on people that I think are have high standards of doing the work. That's who I want to be in business with, and that's who I refer people out to. Number 7 is saying consumer reports. We could, if we wanted to, you're consenting here, allowing us to do a consumer report on you just to make sure that we know who we're dealing with if we didn't already know you. Yeah, again, that's only on an as-needed basis. Number 8 is use and distribution of information. You understand that we're going to collect your information, including your driver's license, for example, and we're going to retrieve that, and we're going to make sure that we capture it and store it, but we're not going to distribute that for the purposes of anything other than what we need to do for this transaction. Any conflict or discrepancy, anything that's handwritten, or if there was a schedule attached to this agreement, those kinds of things are going to supersede all these pre-printed clauses that are in this agreement. Number 10 is saying you're allowing us to use email and fax as ways to communicate as well. And that's it. That's all for the buyer representation agreement. There'll be spots for you to sign and for me to sign because we're making promises on both sides.